Happy free agency Monday, Broncos country. Welcome to Let's Talk Broncos. I'm Bree Maestas here with Zach Seegers and Joey Richards. Guys, how are you?
I'm doing well. I feel like it's been a little bit. We're all here on the podcast at the beginning of the free agency. I love this. I love this because it's been a little bit that all three of us are just sitting here and we're able to talk football. And what a better time than right now. I mean, this is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely excited. And I'm honestly surprised we have so much to talk about. But we got tons. The Broncos were so active today. So it's going to be a great active show. We even have some Frankie's film, which is great. So yeah, excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't eaten anything today and I've been running off of pure adrenaline. What a fantastic day in order to do so as the Broncos. You already alluded to it, Zach. They've made a ton of moves and we want to jump right into them. I think the first one of note for all of Broncos country is there was a major push for an improvement along the offensive line. And Sean Payton, the Denver Broncos, made those moves, big spending in both Powers and McGlinchey. How do you guys feel about those two signings? I know they were a little bit pricey, but I think that is exactly what we wanted to see, an investment in the O-line where there was a little bit of issue there. It does also mean that Dalton Reisner, hometown hero for the Denver Broncos, moves on from the team, but it does allow some of the holes that were very apparent in the 2022 season to be rectified here with two major spends, two major moves. We're going to jump right into the first one here with Mike McGlinchey. Guys, talk to me a little bit about this right tackle prospect here for the Denver Broncos and welcome him to the team.
Okay, I want to go. So Mike McGlinchey, he got a big contract, 5 years, 87.5 million. It was a big deal. It was a big deal. But he's a good right tackle, and the Broncos haven't had a good right tackle in forever. They really haven't had a good right tackle. You can go and look all the way back to Orlando Franklin. Here's the thing. People are complaining about the contract, and I kind of get it. I do. I don't think it's as big of an overpay as everybody's going to make it seem. And, I was talking to Zach about that in our little group chat earlier today, and he shed some light on that. I'm really not the contract guy. I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to the money aspect of it. But one thing I absolutely do know is that right tackle is a need for everybody almost. I listened to Daniel Jeremiah talk about this, and it was a couple years back. He said, if you go and look or ask all the GMs or you go team to team and ask them, what do you need? What are the positions of need for you guys? They're all pretty much going to say right tackle and cornerback depth. And being that there's so few right tackles in the NFL that are starting caliber, you can't go into free agency and say, I'm going to find a cheap starting right tackle and he's going to play great. That's just something that won't work. It won't work. There's going to be a flaw and then a big one. And Mike McGlinchey's not a perfect player, but you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pony up to get a player that's good at this position. At the end of the day, that is what you're going to have to do. And Mike McGlinchey is good. He is a tremendous run blocker. He's a mauler. You could tell right with the face mask, right? He has that old school style face mask that would indicate that. But he's a mauler and he's a run blocker. And I think if you are looking at what Russell Wilson needs to be a good player this next year or be the player he once was, I'd say the number one thing is build a run game. That would be my number one thing. And Mike McGlinchey helps to do that.
Yeah, I love those points. And to that, like, he's a flawed player, but that's what happens with tackles in free agency. You're not signing like Orlando Pace isn't making it to free agency. Like Anthony Munoz isn't making it to free agency. Like these guys they're rare. They're very hard to cultivate, and you keep those guys in house. So yeah, Mike McGlinchey's not an all-world tackle, but he's fine. I also think when you hear the 49ers fans coming out of the woodwork going, this guy's a bum. Yeah, you were watching him in comparison to Trent Williams for a few years. That's going to make a lot of tackles look worse. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Mike McGlinchey signing. Joey said it's hard to find decent guys at this position. And as we have down there at our cool little nifty graphic, it's like the 13th highest paid tackle. Compared to that to when it's sixth I think, or 7th among right tackles. Which compare that to when they signed Jawan James, a player with much bigger, much glaring red flags, and was the highest paid right tackle ever. This is nowhere near that big a swing, and I don't think it possesses near that much risk, a much higher floor thing. And in the NFL, it's not about having superstar offensive linemen. It's about having solid guys everywhere. The Broncos are now one of 7-8 teams that have a solidified right tackle situation. That's a bonus. I think, we'll get into it with the guard. They're one of a few teams that have 2 solidified guard positions. If you can figure out left tackle, if you can figure out center with, again, just like average level starters, if you have average level starters across the board, you have a top 5-10 line in the NFL. That's how it works, because it's that hard to find average starters along the offensive.
We've been talking about on Let's Talk Broncos about the potential for maybe mistakenly moving too far in one direction. What I'm hoping these signings will be able to do is solidify that unit and kind of take the already present talent, specifically at center, and be able to make that entire offensive line look a little bit better across the board. So you've got McGlinchey, you've got Bowles, Miners, and Ben Powers added to that list, who we will talk about now. Obviously, one of the very first pieces to move, one of the bigger names to be signed. Seems like the Broncos and Sean Payton had their eyes on Powers for quite some time. And let's be honest, with a last name like that, it's hard pressed to say that he won't be an absolute unit here for the Denver Broncos and their line as they continue to look to give a little bit more protection to their quarterback, which was, again, a big complaint out of Broncos country this last season. I feel a little bit of excitement talking about these prospects, especially because what it means for the entirety of the offense. I think the idea that a run game can now facilitate itself and help highlight Russell Wilson and what he's actually good at. Can we talk a little bit about what Ben Powers brings to an offensive line and how you think that's going to move forward in 2023 and just getting the ball literally rolling down the field so the Broncos can pull some points off?
Yeah. Bree, a lot like McGlinchey, right? I mentioned that he's not the best pass blocker. And now Powers this last season, he improved dramatically. If you go and look at even the grids or the film, you're going to see a player that improved dramatically as a pass blocker. You really are. But in years past, kind of struggled in that area. So he was a one-year dude that really exploded this last year. But one thing that has been consistent for him is, again, he's a mauler. He's going to beat you up in a phone booth. And that's just the type of dude he is in that tight area. When it's just mano-a-mano and I'm going to drive you down the field. That's where Ben Powers is terrific. That's where Mike McGlinchey is terrific. And so Ben Powers on its own, I thought the deal was a good deal. And then when I started seeing, okay, Mike McGlinchey as well, I started to realize the Broncos are starting to create an identity here. It's we're going to pound the football. We're going to run it down the field. We're going to put the feather in the Broncos cap is going to be, we're going to out physical you on the offensive line. And I think you have 3 players in specific, Quinn Miners, you have McGlinchey, and now you have Ben Powers, where it's like, okay, this is cool. You have 3 players that work together and kind of do that same kind of thing. Now, obviously, we're missing center now, but Ben Powers brings that, and I'm excited for the identity that he's going to help bring to the Broncos now and going forward.
Yeah, I think the last time, so the run mauling aspect is definitely there and is definitely a positive, and I love how they're building that identity. But I think another big point is it's going to shore up the pass protection, especially up the gut. Quarterback and Russell Wilson is a little different, but I mean, there's other aspects where that interior protection is important because of his short stature. This actually grew a mullet. Thank you, Ravi. Sorry, this threw me off guard. But I think just solidifying that front, that's something the Broncos haven't had since 2019, like at the latest, when you had Connor McGovern and Ronald Leary and Dalton Reisner playing well as a rookie. If they can find a decent center, I don't know, it'll just all come together. I'm really excited about just having solid left guard play. I feel like year in and year out, really since 2020, it was like, ooh, this Dalton Risner thing might be a problem, but 2019 was good, so let's give it another year. And then 2021 was rough, and it was like, okay, but we'll give it another year. And then 2022 was bad, and now finally he's off the rookie deal. He's gone, and they're ready to upgrade on that position. And I think it's going to benefit the entire offense, both the run and pass game, even if he's more of a run blocker.
I want to highlight Ty Walden's comment over on YouTube. LTB Crew, Ravens fans told me the Broncos overpaid for Powers. Do you think they did, or is it a fair contract? I want to point out the contract here, $13 million signing bonus. 2023 salary was looking at $2 million, 2024, 12, and then it goes a little bit down marginally from there. I want to point out also the importance of the guard position in what Sean Payton likes to run. I think the valuation there is going to be exactly what Sean Payton is looking for. And then a cost benefit, they wouldn't make those moves unless it was exactly what was needed for the offense and how they want to move that line going forward. So I do not see this as an overpay. I think when we use the word overpay, that it's just a reset of the market. It wasn't something that was outstanding or something that really made waves throughout free agency today. I think it was appropriate. And I think although time will tell, we won't know until the end of the season when we're able to kind of see what he was able to do and his efficiency on the line. But I don't necessarily think it was an overpay, at least from my lens.
Bree, I thought that was perfect. Bree, do you know who Laken Tomlinson is?
I feel like I'm being set up.
No, I think I wasn't trying to set you up. I think that's an understandable thing. He's making more than Ben Powers right now. He was a guard drafted by the Lions, I believe, was nothing, went to the 49ers, had a good season, and got signed by the Jets. Very similar trajectory, frankly, to Ben Powers. Drafted, struggles a little bit, has a pop year, enters free agency, and capitalizes on it. He's making more than Ben Powers right now. And I think Ben Powers' early career wasn't quite as tumultuous as Laken Tomlinson. Other guys in that bracket, Zach Martin, because he's got a weirdly cheap deal, but Zach Martin should not be the 8th highest paid guard. But guys in that range are like Laken Tomlinson, Andrus Peat, Cody Whitehair, Nate Davis now after that contract he just signed, Vitae, James Daniels. Like, those are the guys Ben Powers is being paid more than. I think he has a better rep than all of those guys. So it's hard for me to say he's overpaid, especially when you consider that the cap is always inflating. That deal that Vitae signed a season, or actually that's not quite right, but that like James Daniels signed a season or two ago isn't that far off from the Ben Powers contract now. And I think Powers is a better free agent prospect.
Yeah, I mean, I am not contract guy. I have no idea. Just looking at the numbers, it's good. What do you, Zach? You are the contract person. What do you think about the deal being so beneficial up front for the Broncos? It doesn't seem like, when I was looking at the numbers, like they're taking that big of a cap hit this next year.
Do you have those handy? Because I don't know them off the top of my head.
Absolutely. The numbers, sorry, I read them off and then I clicked out.
I'm
grabbing
sorry,
here.
dude.
The contract is $13 million in a signing bonus. That means his 2023 salary is $2 million, 2024 is $12 million, and then 25 and 26 are 11 and change.
It's interesting. I'd probably want to front load. I guess I don't get backloading it, because right now is when you have the room for these expenses. Russell Wilson's contract last year and this year were the cheap Russell Wilson years, where he's making, I think it was like 20 some last year. It's 30 some this year. This is when it's cheap. This is when you have more flexibility. In 2024, that Russ number finally spikes to 50. And then you're going to start to feel the strain of a big, expensive quarterback contract. So I would lean towards front loading these deals. The other advantage with front loading these deals is it helps you get the guarantees paid off and out of the way, which means you don't have dead cap lingering. What dead cap is money that's been paid out to the player via guarantees, but hasn't gone into effect on the cap yet. And I guess based on that pay structure, I'm not totally sure. I'd have to look more into it on over the cap or spot rack. But if you're putting the guarantees into the back end of the contract, it does tie you more to the player and it does put you more at risk. And when we talk about Ben Powers kind of having this 1 year pop season, that would be a bit of a concern. Not an end of the world one, but something to monitor if it is structured so back.
Joey tends to I think that you're going to say something and then you just stop. And so I'm like, oh, I thought you were going to jump into another point. You didn't have a follow up to Zach's contract numbers. You were just as curious as the rest of the Let's Talk Broncos community.
Exactly. No, literally, guys. Like, if you're looking for numbers and like what the contracts mean towards the salary cap, like, don't come to me. I've texted Zach for like 4 hours about this before, and I don't.
You guys can go like football nerd. Go. Give us the numbers. What's the AAV? Sorry, you go, Bree. We haven't been together, just the three of us, in like a little over a week. We're rusty. This is bad.
I know we're a little bit rusty. What a fantastic episode in order to do it. So we've gone ahead and dug through the trenches, which is Joey's favorite. We're going to go to my favorite, which is, I'm kidding. Linebacker isn't my favorite position, but Alex Singleton is one of my favorite players to play for the Denver Broncos. Broncos saying, re-signing Alex Singleton after a monumental season. And I want to point this out because I think there's this misnomer that linebackers are not or cannot be these game-changing positions. And I think Alex Singleton was able to prove last season, although I know there's risk associated with putting all of your eggs in one basket here. I think he's well within his privy to earn this type of contract. He was setting NFL records, for God's sake. Having a career high season doesn't mean he's going to fall off of a cliff in 2023. What I'm hoping is it's a sign that they believe not only in what he has done, but Sean Payton sees the value of having him on the team. Also seems like an incredibly humble guy. Excited to see him re-sign with the Denver Broncos. Guys, how do you feel about the Alex Singleton return?
Go ahead, Zach. I know you have stronger opinion about this than I do.
You know what? This is my big L. I want to be someone that owns my L's when I have them. And this is a huge one. This is one of my biggest ever. I was like, this guy is, maybe going to be a camp cut. There's no way he's the starting linebacker. It's very clearly going to be Jonas Griffith and Josie Jewell. And I struck out hard.
Were you a Joe Schobert guy by chance, Zach?
Oh, God, no. God, no. God, no. I was staunchly like, we need to stop talking about Joe Schobert now because this is a joke. But I gave Singleton more credit than I did Schobert. But I do think I said something probably like, hey, man, if Singleton's the linebacker 3, Schobert's got a chance of making the roster. I do think I said things like that at the time, which were egregiously wrong. And so tip of my cap to Bree. She was right. Every now and then I have to sing the Zach wrong song. And this is one of those times, another one being Russell Wilson. Bree, are you ready for your big victory lap?
I mean, we got Greg Dulcich, we have Russell Wilson, we have Alex Singleton. You want to add any? There's a couple of other ones. We'll just let it go by the wayside. At the end of the day, I'm just happy I can live in the moment today and just be excited about what's to come with his partner, obviously, Josie Jewell, the Bash brothers. I'm hoping for a long and torrid affair of watching opposing teams just have a really hard time containing that duo. And who could have seen some of these things that had happened? Did I see Alex Singleton setting single season records for linebacker in tackles? No, I didn't. And so I'll be here to say that I was pleasantly surprised with the rest of you. Joey, you said you didn't have strong feelings, but do you have any feelings about the return?
I mean, I was definitely wrong on him too. That's something I do want to throw out there. Alex Singleton is a better football player than I gave him credit. I always knew he was a run and chase linebacker, and if that's what you wanted him to do, he was going to be good at that. I thought he was a huge, massive liability in the past. And is he a good or a great pass coverage linebacker? No, you could go out there and find better. It's just that I wasn't familiar with the part of his game where he is also a really good pass rusher. If you want to send him up the middle and be a blitzer, Alex Singleton's great at that. That's a fantastic part of his game, and then that's how he then affects the pass, right? Shout out to Evero, because he did that a lot on those designed, like simulated pressures. Alex Singleton, for a lot of the season, was the person bringing the heat. He really was. So shout out to him for that. I'm happy he's back. I would rather him than, have to go out there and sign another linebacker, because that's also been a rotating door. So I'm happy Alex Singleton's back. I think Josie Jewell's a good player. I think Alex Singleton is fine. The Broncos linebacker core should look good next year. That's my take.
Yeah, and I think another thing is it really lines up well with, like, to your point, carrying him over. It's good construction of the linebacking room, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You have Jonas Griffith waiting in the wings on this really cheap ERFA deal. I was talking with Bree about ERFA deals today. The exclusive rights free agent is a tender you can put out there, which is basically, do you want this guy on your roster for like the veteran minimum with zero guarantees? It's like the most team-friendly deal. So the Broncos get to keep Jonas Griffith around on that for one more season, which is fantastic. He's a really good special teams player, really nice linebacking depth there too as your number 3 option. And then the Josie Jewell contract, which they signed last season, although I've been very happy with Josie Jewell. After this year, the Broncos will have the luxury of making a decision. Do we want Josie Jewell at $5.5 million a year, or do we want to re-sign Griffith for maybe 2, 3, something like that at a bargain deal, and promote from within and make Jonas Griffith our long-term starter next to Alex Singleton? Or maybe you keep Jonas Griffith as just that third guy and a special teams ace. Like, they've just got a lot of options now, which I think is great. Alex Singleton, like Joey said, was an ace last year. I wonder a bit going from Evero to Joseph. But yeah, looking at the guarantees, where he ranks 26th, and then the AAV, which ranks 18th, that's annual or average annual value. The guys he's around, like, he's making less than TJ Edwards, and a 34-year-old Demario Davis, and Miles Jack and Devin White. He's making more than Christian Kirksey and Jordan Hicks and Devin Bush and Frankie Louvu. Like, that's just, I don't know, that seems about right to me. He's kind of above the top or below the top end market, above the lower end guy, stability at the position. I'm all for it. And Bree and I but it heads a little on, should they even re-sign Alex Singleton? I like this deal, Bree. I got to say, I'm a fan. I've been turned over to your side here.
I'm going to ask for your efforts in helping with one of Bill's comments here. Bill 1293 over on YouTube, or draft a linebacker to replace Jewell. I am under the understanding that sometimes Broncos country can kind of lean towards Josie Jewell maybe not being worth pursuing for a long-term contract. I have come to terms in the last season or so on his impact on the team. Do either of you want to take a crack at maybe giving Josie Jewell some love, or do you also agree here? Do you think the Broncos need to go to the draft and start facilitating an idea of how to move forward at linebacker for years to come?
For me, it's like, I wouldn't go out there being like, we need to get a Josie Jewell replacement. But if a guy in the draft, like, the Broncos are picking in the 3rd round right now, I don't think they have any room. And I know not all of us agree on this, but I don't think they have any room to look for positions in the 3rd round or 4th round or 5th round. You're in a place where you just should be drafting the best players available. You really should. And if that guy happens to be a linebacker, I'm not mad at it. I'm not treating that 3rd round pick like it's a 1st round pick, because it's not. The chances of hitting on that player on its own are low. So you might as well just take whoever you think has the best likelihood of ending up good. And if it's a linebacker, so be it. The Broncos aren't in position to say, we need a cornerback with that 3rd round pick. They just aren't, because what if that guy ranks, 12th down their board? They shouldn't pigeonhole themselves that late into the draft. I'm not looking to replace Josie Jewell, but if it happens, it happens.
Yeah, for me, I wouldn't be looking to spend draft picks on it because it's just so far down the list of concerns. While Joey was talking there, I tried to, just so I wouldn't forget, scribble down like the places that I think are more pressing needs. Like where, because let's be real, the Broncos don't have a ton of picks right now because of the Russell Wilson trade, the Sean Payton trade, getting no comp picks. I think they've got like 5 or 6 right now entering this draft. They're pretty poor in that regard. Things they have to address. What are you going to do at left tackle? Right? And not all of these are draft things, but just you have to address what's going on at left tackle. Maybe it's keeping Bulls, maybe it's signing someone, maybe it's bringing in some late round rookie, who knows. Have to figure out what's going on at center. Have to figure out what's going on at cornerback. You need more cornerback depth. You might even need another starter, depending on Joseph's opinion of Damari Mathis. You need to figure out what's going on at running back. Huge holes there. That one probably is taking some draft picks. Got to add some more talent at wide receiver too. Cortland Sutton's future is up in the air with the team. Tim Patrick coming off an ACL. Jerry Jeudy you feel good about, but his contract's coming up soon, and he is maybe getting traded. Edge, have to figure that one out. With Randy Gregory's injury question marks, going to be making a decision on him after this season. Baron Browning is still coming into his own. Interior defensive line. Draymond Jones speaks for itself. Safety depth. You're losing Kareem Jackson. You're maybe losing PJ Locke. Tight end depth. They added Chris Manhertz, but I think they could use some more stuff there. And I didn't even finish my list. That's what I got through before Joey finished talking. I'm sure there's more. Those are things that have to be addressed one way or another in the next 2 years. The Broncos linebacker room is currently constructed where they don't have to think about it for the next 2 years. And when they have so many problems that actively need their attention, I'm not really looking to spend quality draft picks on linebacking depth right now. I think they can already have it. I think linebacking depth is very easy to find. Alex Singleton, that was a free agent that led his team in tackles. They signed him to a low-level special teams contract, the type of contract that says, hey, we might cut you at the end of camp, and we don't want any dead cap ramifications for us. So you have zero security whatsoever, and we're not even paying you $2 million for the season. Bargain barrel. And he can get all pro votes. It's easy to find linebackers. The Broncos have more pressing needs at positions that are harder to cultivate.
You mentioned one of those positions in safety, and I'm just pounding the table once again. I feel like I do this a little too often, but today would be a fantastic day to bring back Kareem Jackson, not in the role that he has serviced in the past. And I don't want to make this episode about that argument there, but I think that there is a place for Kareem Jackson on this Denver Broncos roster. Allow Caden Stearns to step into that starting role. And I'm sure that we will talk about safety and cornerback depth a lot in this offseason. So I'm looking forward to that discussion there. Just wanted to highlight that, as you mentioned him being gone already, and I've heard that there's some within the building who may want to bring him back. So wanted to touch on something else that you brought up in the depth across most positions. That includes now quarterback. Broncos not looking to retain Brett Rippon, but bring on Jarrett Stidham. And then looking at a tight end who seems to scheme and pair with Greg Dulcich quite nicely in the block, which would facilitate a nice run game for the Denver Broncos. I think I know exactly where this offense for the Denver Broncos is moving in 2023. How do you guys feel about the signings? Does Jarrett Stidham light your heart aflame in the idea of a serviceable backup quarterback in case Russell Wilson gets injured or is unable to play at some point next season?
I want to talk more. Okay, Zach, you take Jarrett Stidham, and I want to talk more about Chris Manhertz. Are you good with that?
Totally. I was talking about this earlier with Bree on the Fan Cave. People go check out the Fan Cave. If Russell Wilson doesn't play good football this year, everybody don't jump down my throat, if he doesn't play good football this year, the Broncos are going to be motivated to come up with an injury excuse to bench him. Just the fact of the matter. Based on how the injury guarantees go into effect, if Russell Wilson does not miss games this season as a result of injury, the Broncos are considerably more tied to him. Now, if he's not playing well, they're not going to want to be tied to him. I don't be surprised if Russell Wilson is playing bad and you see a weird injury pop up in week 13 or week 14. And it's Russell Wilson, strained calf. And you're strained calf, that's a pretty minor injury. He's missing 6 weeks with a strained calf. Like, get ready for it. That's very possible just for the financial ramifications. And then you get Jarrett Stidham in there. That's a lot harder to market with Brett Rippon. It's easier with Jarrett Stidham. I still think it's pretty hard to market, which is why I thought they'd get an even better backup quarterback. But Stidham does provide somewhat of an insurance plan.
I just want to know how we always have NFL Illuminati conspiracy theory conversations here on the Let's Talk Broncos podcast.
That's just how the money works. That's not conspiracy. That's from Jason OTC's Russell Wilson understanding his contract article. When I was digging through all those to argue my talk about some deep state, my extremist case that the Broncos need to cut this dork. Oh, breaking news.
Uh-oh.
Wait, is that real life? Is that something happening right now?
I'm trying to pull it up right now.
All right, I'll talk about Jarrett Stidham while you pull that up.
Or Chris Manhertz. Give us a quick Chris Manhertz thing and we can break
Chris Manhertz, I tweeted today that I wish the Broncos, or I would give Mercedes Lewis a 1-year deal and let him play, because the Broncos need an inline tight end that can really block, and Mercedes Lewis is getting really old, but I would have given him a 1-year deal. I think Chris Manhertz comes in and fills that same niche for the Broncos. Take it away, Bree.
We got breaking news over here from Adam Schefter. Former Cardinals defensive end Zach Allen reached an agreement for a 3-year, $45.75 million deal that includes $32.5 million guaranteed at signing. Per sources, Allen's reunited with Denver DC Vance Joseph. Guys, reaction time, go.
Yeah, I love this. I might be wrong. Straight up, I might be wrong. I think I'm at a loss for words. I can't believe the Broncos pulled this one off. I think this is really good. I think the interior defensive line market is skyrocketing. We're seeing that right now with the Hargrave contract, the Deron Payne deal. I think Draymond Jones, whenever he signs, that's going to be $19 million plus. And my big thing was, when you look at Zach Allen's resume, it's not all that different from Draymond Jones. Yeah, Zach Allen is an idyllic replacement. He's very similar resume to Draymond Jones. Young, progressed every single year of his career. No serious red flags in terms of injury or off field or anything. Great positional versatility, the scheme familiarity with Vance Joseph. Ideal. But I thought, okay, you could have Draymond Jones for 18, and then Zach Allen probably is making 18, 19 himself, probably right in that range. This deal has him for 15. That is like the contract that a 32-year-old J.J. Watt signed, his swan song deal. This is nothing. It's less than what, Grady Jarrett signed 2 years ago for a 30-year-old, and Zach Allen's like 25. If I knew they were able to get this deal the whole time, I wouldn't have been hollering about Draymond Jones so much, because I would rather have Zach Allen for $15 million than Draymond Jones for 20. I'm happy to own my L on that.
Okay,
how quickly you're ready to move on from Draymond Jones? No, I just want to have a reaction to that one.
I love Draymond. I own when I'm wrong, and here I was wrong. I did not think Draymond Jones would be that easy to replace. That was the hinge of my argument.
And this kind of they're different.
You have to see it on the field.
That type of production. I don't know, Joey. You have a better handle on it. Go.
Okay, I like Zach Allen a lot. I do. Zach Allen's a good football player, and the value here, to Zach's point, is there. It's 1,000% there. The argument more so is, I do think that okay, here's the thing. I'm very happy about the Zach Allen deal if I were to isolate that on its own. But yes, I still think that Draymond Jones is a better football player than Zach Allen. That is something I believe. I guess it comes down to, are you willing to pay Draymond Jones however much more he gets than Zach Allen? And we haven't got those numbers yet. And honestly, I'm shocked that we haven't got any numbers yet on Draymond Jones. I'm wondering if the market isn't there like we thought. Or I don't know what's going on, because I figured he would get a deal by now. I figured he would be one of the first guys off the board. Well, so now it's wait and see what Draymond does. I like the Zach. I like the move on isolated. I want to see more. That's kind of where I am right now.
Well, Joey, it's an interesting concept because what if multiple teams are involved? What if other teams are involved and they're not offering as much? And you have a decision on whether or not you're going to take the biggest bag you can get, or if you're going to play for a team that is either a contender, or B, where you want to live. There's a big conversation of where you would go and how much time it associates with having to make that decision. An interior defensive lineman has so much ability to get a premium paycheck in this league right now that it's understandable that you might start to see some of those increased prices. So getting Zach Allen at that cost is actually very it's a positive sign, but that all but guarantees Draymond's non-return to the Denver Broncos.
It does, which is sad. That's sad. That is sad. Yeah. And I don't think there is ways where you just guys, Zach, like my main thing here, and I just made the argument, I'm not really the numbers guy, but the Broncos did, I think at the end of the day, they probably, Zach, he's a great player, Zach Allen. I like Zach Allen a lot, but he is a little worse to me than Draymond Jones is. So that's why it's just a little sour in my mouth.
I agree. I think it's a bit of a downgrade. Like if you could have him for the same, and we'll see what Draymond signs for. You know, maybe I'm still overestimating Draymond Jones's market, but I don't know. You're getting a guy that also is proven in Vance Joseph's scheme and has gotten a little better each year. I'm surprised I've got Samuel Castro in here saying, I need to stop with the negativity. I'm a fan of this signing. I'm saying I was wrong. I think been the most positive out of the three of us. Which I'm surprised. I was very negative about.
He was talking about Singleton or somebody. I don't know. Russell Wilson probably.
It was in the middle of the Zach Allen stuff. So I thought, but anyways, I just don't get the. I'm looking on Twitter now and I see tons of negativity about this deal. Everyone's saying it's a massive overpay. Look at what the IDL market is. I don't know what to tell you. Like the IDL market is jumping up near 20. Zach Allen is a good player that's gotten a little better every single year. I think he's a poor man's Draymond Jones, and the Broncos are paying for that. I think I agree with Joey that it's a downgrade, but I do think there's something to be said about looking, if you're the Broncos, looking at the state you're in and going like, okay, you know what? We're going to be a little asset strapped in terms of not having a lot of draft picks. So we can't bring in a lot of young, cheap talent and not having a lot of salary cap space because of the Russell Wilson deals as well as others. Maybe we can't be shopping in the A+ aisle. Maybe we need to shop in the B+ aisle. And I still think Zach Allen could project to reach a similar ceiling to Draymond Jones. So I'm okay with it. I'm fine with I'm glad they just have someone there. I was worried they were going to let Draymond Jones walk and not have anything to fill that hole. And this front seven was so heavily relying on Draymond Jones that now I feel like they've been bailed out a little.
I am a big – oh, go ahead, Joey.
I just wanted to throw something in there real quick. I just saw a tweet from Bleacher Report. And so they said free agency day one, biggest spender so far. And it's not in per year basis, but it's just like how much you signed total contract. The Broncos are more than doubling anybody in the entire NFL right now in amount in money spent. $219.3 million. Bears, which is crazy, right? I'm trying to figure out how that makes sense in my head.
Don't ask me to do math.
Bleacher Report. And then Bears second, $121 million. That's just crazy. We're talking a different type of money, man.
It's impressive. And I'm sidetracked by that idea because that's a lot of money, right? And then the idea that you send out a tweet that your initial reaction is that's an overpay. To me, that's as simple as quote tweeting something with an emoji reaction, because at that point you're not really doing a whole lot of emphasis on what you mean by an overpay. Are you saying that you don't think that they're going to live up to that evaluation of what exactly? So I want to preface with that because that is going to be the general reaction here. But I think until we see at the end of the year, we're not going to know one way or the other. What I'm most sad about is moving on from Draymond Jones. And I just want to reiterate that again, his impact here on the roster for the Denver Broncos. A lot of his teammates are going to miss him. A lot of the fans are going to as well. So I wanted to highlight that because first and foremost, as a fan of this team, it is sad to potentially see Draymond Jones move on. However, I will say that I hope he gets that contract that he wants. I hope he lands on a contending team, and I hope that he stays healthy in the long term, because at the end of the day, that is all that matters. Welcome to Denver, Zach Allen. The biggest thing too is we talk a lot about it here is the ability for teams, teammates, coaches to amass a roster that they think is going to best set them up for success here. Vance Joseph being able to bring in a player at that position, I'm hoping the pass rush is exactly what keeps up here, because we've all been kind of talking about the ability for that to step down, playing in a division against Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, and now Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know why I threw him in there, but it seemed appropriate to do so. You have to be able to make those quarterbacks scramble and make them as inefficient as possible. Zach Allen should be able to get that job done. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most. Samuel Castro saying the Broncos need depth in the roster. That's exactly what they're working in right now.
They absolutely do, and they're going to have to tackle that. That's why you do. That's why I'm not opposed to. I'm kind of going back to something I said earlier, but that's why I'm not opposed to just taking best player available in like the third round, because you're not drafting starters in the third round. That shouldn't, like, of course that would be fantastic, but most of the time you're not. So you're drafting depth players. I mean, that's why I just figure those are the ones that I would fill in the third round, depth players and stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing. I think it shows awareness of where the Broncos are right now. Maybe this aggressive spending spree is in part because they're looking at the holes on this roster, and there are a lot of holes on this roster, and they're going, you know what? We're probably not replacing Draymond Jones with our scant draft capital. We're probably not overhauling our right tackle situation with very few draft picks. I either put Bree to sleep or she froze for a second, but she's back now. Those are things you're probably not fixing with how few draft picks they had. So I think this is just, it makes a lot of sense to me. I'm for it. It could blow up in their face, but I like seeing the Broncos just have a direction. I think there's so much value in just having a direction. And when they were letting Draymond walk, but kind of making moves to like gear up for a big free agent spending spree, I was like, this seems kind of incongruent. Like, are you trying to win? Are you not trying to win? Like, what are we doing here? Now it's very clear that they're trying to win right now this season while Russell Wilson's cheap, and that's what you want to see.
Any final thoughts on we interrupted our special conversation on Chris Manhertz, obviously the new tight end that has been signed. Did you have any final thoughts on this acquisition? Tight end known for his blocking, ability to set the edge, really get the ball moving. A run game looks like it's about to start fire in Broncos country. Obviously, we'll talk about what the running back room looks like, but do you foresee any moves there that would kind of help out that scheme for Sean Payton's new offense?
Yeah, the Chris Manhertz thing, Bree, I just want to add on that it goes to the same thing I was saying earlier when we were talking about McGlinchey and Powers, is that it fits what the Broncos' identity is trying to become. He's a big 6'6", 255-pound tight end that's going to he's not going to go out there and catch a lot of footballs. He's not. He's 30 years old and he's barely got many footballs at all. But if you're looking for a sixth offensive lineman, a guy you can throw out there to help either protect or be a run blocker, you got it. The Broncos are going to run the damn ball this year. That's the one thing I got. We're running the ball. We're doing play action with Russ. That's the strategy, and we're not even trying to hide it. We're loading up on the guys that are good at that. So that's my last thing on Chris Manhertz there, but I kind of like it. I love tight ends like this. I love these inline blocking tight ends that are actually good at what they do. So he's one of them.
And you know what a good Russell Wilson offense looks like? We're going to punch you in the mouth on first and second down, and we're going to create favorable looks for our offense. I think Russell Wilson has some special abilities left in this game, but his limitations are more glaring than they've ever been before. just a little less escapability. That accuracy is a little less special. Maybe that was the product of injury. Who knows? We'll see. But talking about it with Bree today on the Fan Cave, punish these teams for playing too high against Russell Wilson. Force them to play one high, even though that's what they really don't want to do against Russell Wilson. And that's how you can get the best version of him. Yeah, the let Russ cook era is dead. The Pete Carroll was right era is alive.
Thanks.
Tommy Simmers has entered the chat. Thanks for joining the show, Tommy. Just signed a defensive end. Yeah, we've covered that. So if you'd like to rewatch, and I didn't mean that sarcastically, I just meant please be sure to rewatch and rewind a little bit so you can see our coverage on that. We are going to move forward a little bit on this conversation because it does tie in a little bit here with Draymond Jones on the way out. Are there any other Broncos that you can see being close or relatively close to not rejoining the team for 2023? Because right now it looks like there's some question marks surrounding PJ Locke. There are some question marks around maybe potentially what Kareem Jackson will end up doing for his 14th season in the NFL. Guys, give it to me. Broncos on the way out of the building. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, Draymond's gone. That sucks. Like you guys said, it's very sad. I want to be clear though, we're not dancing on Draymond Jones's grave. My man is about to make
clearly not
generational wealth. He's about to have at some point in the next week, Draymond Jones is going to have, I don't know, $50 million plus deposited into his bank account. I'm very happy for the man. He's doing pretty good for himself. Sad it's not in Denver, but good for him. See someone in the comments calling him a JV player. That's nuts. It's going to hurt to lose him, but Zach Allen replacing him, I feel good about that. Talked about that already. PJ Locke is a notable loss, though, especially with K-Jack probably not returning. Maybe he returns again. It's happened the last 2 off seasons. Maybe they make it 3 in a row. But either way, K-Jack's been missing time in recent years. He's shown greater signs of slippage in recent years where even if you're bringing him back, I think the depth behind him is important. To me, this feels like almost trying to prove yourself right. De'Aaron Turner-Yell, I think, was an underwhelming draft pick last year, and the play wasn't really there. And now this feels like, well, we've got the 5th-round draft pick, even though I think PJ Locke has greatly outperformed him. The fact they're not even putting like an original round tender on PJ Locke, who is a UDFA. It could be $1 million, and you can bring back PJ Locke, who's worth well more than $1 million as a safety in this league. I don't get it. So I think that's a big L. Not bringing Ronald Darby back is a little interesting. I get it, as he's a 29-year-old corner coming off a torn ACL with tons of injury concerns, and Damari Mathis looked really good. But what did Joey say earlier in the show? Every team in the NFL wants more cornerbacks, and Ronald Darby was awesome the first 4 weeks of last season. I could easily see that hurting the Broncos.
You're seeing what exactly the conversation that played out last cycle when the Broncos decided to move off Bryce Callahan for injury concerns, and he plays an entire season without having so much as a little bit of a hobble in his step. So my frustrating thing there is like when we start talking about maybe the depth at cornerback, you could never have too many CBs. And I'm going to shout that alongside Joey as well. The idea that you are safe with what you have presently on this roster at both safety and cornerback is a very dicey game that the Broncos get bit on every single year. And I do not understand it. My hope is that there's actually something in the works here with both PJ Locke, obviously Essang Bassey, who I think is an underrated player who you're going to need that type of talent over there on special teams. And then DTY I think it's a kind of an unfair shake, maybe drafted a little bit too high or soon, that relative value there. I still think that he's going to be able to step into that role going into next season, or maybe even the season after. You got to learn somewhere. You got to cut your teeth somehow. This year feels a little bit dicey. I thought last season was going to be dicier. You move off Bryce Callahan, the Chargers pick him up, end up paying him a relatively small amount, and the Broncos end up having to dig very deep into pockets they did not have to facilitate some form of depth on that roster. Joey, I saw you nodding along a little bit. Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I just want to say we all want PJ Locke back. I mean, it seems unanimous, like between Broncos country too. It's not just us on this podcast. PJ Locke is a fine football player. He really is. I like in every single preseason these last 2 years, he's shown out. And then you had Evero. Evero is a respected guy, right? I think we can all agree we like Evero here.
Wildly respected.
Wildly respected. Evero made it known that he's a trusted agent, quote unquote, trusted agent in the secondary, and a guy that he would absolutely feel comfortable playing. So it's just weird that, you might be losing Kareem Jackson and then you don't want PJ Locke back, who's versatile. You can come up and hit in the box and cover a little. Why wouldn't we want him back as a depth option? I just don't get it. I don't understand it at all. And Bree, I totally agree with your point. You can never have enough DBs. It's something that you could use. You could use right when you think that you have enough, you don't. And it's not even breaking the bank. It's not like some team's paying PJ Locke some crazy amount. You had to tender him. That's what's annoying about this. The Broncos are just neglecting in what I see. And, maybe I could be wrong here. But I view him as a good player, and the Broncos are telling us that they don't. That's the way I see it, and I don't think it's right. I don't agree with it. So I would want PJ Locke back.
Yeah, fully agree.
Can we give it? Can we get? I didn't want to go into. I was looking at you. Listen, okay, the blood sugar is not blood sugaring, so give me a second while you wrap my head around what I was trying to facilitate next. I think I kind of wanted to give an overall free agency day 1, March 13th grade on the moves that were already made. I know we still need to talk about something upcoming, and that's the potential for some trades, but there are some questions here in the chat about, so how did we do? Did we win free agency? Guys, I voted. I saw the first poll that came across my screen over on Twitter. Follow me, Bree Maces 303, and I clicked a resounding A. I am tremendously positive and optimistic today, and that's not the tune that I've been singing the entire offseason since that final game played out here for Broncos country. I think they did a good job. I think they did what they needed to do in order to set themselves up for success, build a foundation here. I clicked an A. If I was given an opportunity to do B+ or A-, I would have fallen in between there, given I don't know, a 93% or something, but I think they did well. I'm not mad at a lot of these moves. I'm saddened by some of the moves that may be upcoming in the next couple of days, but I want to hear from both of you and drop them in the chat so I can highlight them. How'd the Broncos do on free agency day number 1?
Take it away.
I'll give them a B+. I think the McGlinchey deal, or not the McGlinchey, I think the Ben Powers deal was fine. It's what you expect. He's a good guard that reaches free agency. He makes the money that makes him the 10th highest paid guard. I don't think it's an overpay. I think it's in line with the market, but I'm not going to, be throwing roses at George Payton's feet. I don't think it's like oh my God, masterful chess play, good sir. I don't feel that about it either. So I think that's a good B. McGlinchey, I think that's actually a bit of a bargain when you look at the rest of the left tackle market. I'd give that maybe an A-. What's the other big one? Zach Allen. I feel like that's about a B. Overall, maybe even an A- or so. Alex Singleton's a little tiny bit rich for me. I'd say that's a B. I'll get through that quick before Bree turns her death beam at me. But overall, yeah, I feel a good, somewhere teetering between B and A. One thing that feels unfair to be too critical of, because I do think it all looks good on paper and it's a little rain on the parade, but I do think it is worth mentioning. It's not all that frequent we go, man, that team that spent twice as much as everyone else in free agency, that was really smart. Oftentimes we look back on that, and not saying that all the deals will look bad, but just, that was a bit of an overpay there. That was a bit of an overpay here. That's my one concern. Maybe they're a little too over aggressive in these holes.
I would give it a B. I like the players the Broncos signed. I really don't have an issue, I don't think, with any of them. I think McGlinchey's the riskiest move that they made today. I have faith in Zach Allen being a good football player. I have a lot of faith in Ben Powers being a good football player. The tight end you really didn't get for anything. Jared Stidham's fine. Whatever. McGlinchey was a big paid player, right? That was a big paid player, and you got him, and it's not like he's an elite tackle or anything like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how he comes over. And maybe I'm just a little pessimistic with our right tackle history here in Broncos country. The reason, though, why I give it a B is because of I need to see the rest, right? Because it doesn't feel like the Broncos are putting a huge emphasis on retaining their own. That's something that kind of freaks me out between PJ Locke or Draymond Jones or rumors of Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton being gone. Those are things that I get. Changes need to be made, but I don't think you need to get rid of your good players to do that. Like that's just something that I kind of disagree with. And it could change if they don't end up moving off of that many players that I think are really good. It could go up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What grade would you give it, Bree?
Like an A-, a B+. If there was something in between, I'd feel even better with that. I think there's a little demarcation there that says I don't hate it. I can't find a lot wrong with it. I do agree, Joey, and I think that I'm really happy that you mentioned that. We kind of did individually, but the idea that Draymond Jones and PJ Locke are maybe gone gives me a large pause of hesitation as I want to move forward, discussing both of those players. But I'm really hoping substantially that PJ Locke is not a missing member of Broncos country. So I'll wait to have that conversation when it happens. And I'll just wish both the best of luck with whatever does come down that way. But I would say I'm going to go A- just because I really don't hate the idea that they made some really great moves to spackle over some glaring holes. And that's all we were asking all offseason. We said going into this that we wanted to see them attack wholeheartedly a lot of those missing pieces. Now they still have a lot of work to do. Ty Walden asks, I lost it because Tommy's going crazy in the chat. Thanks, Tommy. Ty Walden says, LTB Crew, do you see the Broncos making more moves tomorrow? And if so, which position would you like the team to address? Let's hop into it. I do want to talk a little bit about Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and what that potentially means for moving forward. Guys, a conversation here. Ooh, to New England. I didn't see that little caveat there. The idea is crazy. Joey, yes.
I just wanted to add on that I saw a Cowboys reporter say that the Cowboys also were wanting Jerry Jeudy. So those are two teams that were linked out there to Jeudy. Patriots were linked to both Jeudy and Sutton. And from multiple people now, it seems like the Broncos probably are going to move off of one of them. That's the indication I get reading from people. Like I have the same information as everybody. I just pay a lot of attention to it. And from what I'm reading, it seems like they're going to be one's going to be gone. I wouldn't trade either. I wouldn't. You add all of these players and okay, so here's the issue. The Broncos just got a lot better on the offensive line, and then you trade a wide receiver, right? The Broncos wide receivers weren't that great last year. They weren't that great last year, and with no imminent replacement or better option, who's better than 23-year-old Jerry Jeudy, still on his rookie contract, former first-round pick? It's weird because it feels like we're ruling out the possibility that he could even get a second contract. Why are we ruling that out? Why is that something that everyone the people that are trading, trade him right now. He could be a Bronco for a while. Why not? He could blow up next year. Sutton, he's second year removed off that injury. I wouldn't put all my eggs in the basket that he's going to be that physical dominant player. But guess what, guys? He's the best separator we've ever seen in his career last year. I do think that. I think that I would not trade either of these guys. To me, this is a room you add on to. You do not sell at. That's the way I view it. There's too much uncertainties, especially with KJ Hamler's history and Tim Patrick coming off of injury. It just I can't make sense of it.
I've had conversations on both sides of the aisle here, but I'm going to reference Tommy's comment here that I trade either, but not both. What this tells me is that there's not an isolation standpoint of looking at Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton as two different, entirely skill set types of wide receivers and
Totally.
what they offer to the team and what Sean Payton is looking to do with this offense. So the idea that you'd be okay with, well, maybe one or maybe not the other, you got to tell me why, because at this point, I think you're looking at two fundamentally different things. With Jerry Jeudy, the price point doesn't make sense. If you're moving off of that, I can understand why you might want to allocate some draft capital from trading him away. Where are you going to put that? Because the idea here is that if you want to improve your wide receiver room, that you're going to turn around, take those draft picks, which I mean, what are you actually thinking of getting that facilitates an efficiency here? And I keep throwing that word out, but the idea is that you turn around, you get another wide receiver, and you kind of hope it just works out here. Then you're just delaying the inevitable. So the question that I have here is that it doesn't make sense that you be okay with like, just get rid of one of them. I don't care which one it is, because the idea that Cortland Sutton is the same type of receiver that Tim Patrick is also kind of a lazy assuming factor here, because he's not. So if you want to really dig deep and kind of find a wide receiver that you want to move on from for the Denver Broncos, and then tell me what you're going to get from that, and then tell me how you're going to use that picks, maybe I'd be okay with it. I didn't take an entire breath, that entire monologue, but go ahead, Zach.
That was a banger, Bree. I was making faces that whole time. They weren't at you. They were at the comments that continued to pour in. And Tommy, my man, I appreciate you engaging with the show. Helps us out. Thank you very much for talking with us. Really helpful. When you say, it's fine if they lose Jerry Jeudy, they've got a clone in the wings in KJ Hamler. Whoa, we need to pump the brakes, my man. We need to slam the brakes. We need to slam them. Jerry Jeudy against man coverage just had the most efficient season we've ever seen. Ever. And he did it in the NFL passing offense that was least efficient against man coverage in the entire NFL. So he's in this situation that is garbage against man coverage. And in spite of that all, he was the most efficient receiver against man coverage that we've seen since the stat is available to me, which is like 2014. It covers a lot of productive passing offenses and a lot of great receivers. That's like almost the entirety of Julio Jones's and Antonio Brown's prime. But, oh my goodness. Tommy, my man, I love you. I appreciate the support. But Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler is not. There is a gulf greater than the Pacific Ocean between those two worlds. And that's the thing. Wide receivers are so valued right now because every NFL team is realizing they need 3 or 4 pass catchers at least. It kind of started with the 2016 Falcons. It was like, oh man, we just need a bunch more weapons. And that's permeated throughout the league. You need depth at it. If the Broncos let go of one of those two guys, what do you have? Greg Dulcich, who you have to be worried about his injury stuff going forward, and Javonte Williams off of a horrific knee injury, and a watered-down Cortland Sutton, and Tim Patrick off an ACL. Like, man, that's a really unexciting offense. I'm okay with moving off of Cortland Sutton, but still, like, there's a reason Cortland Sutton has such a market right now, because every other team is looking at, like, oh, we could have Cortland Sutton for, after the trade, like $11 million, or Jacoby Myers for 20. Like, would we rather take a 1-year, $11 million flyer on Cortland Sutton and throw in like a 5th round pick with that, or $20 million a year for Jacoby Myers? You take the flyer on Cortland Sutton. And that's the thing. Like, the Broncos are in a pretty solid position with the wide receiver drought the rest of the NFL is experiencing right now. They have a need to upgrade it and get better, but that, like, trading either Sutton or Jeudy would be regression. It would be backwards movement.
Well, and I think also the ability to compare, I can maybe see where some of the comments are coming from when you start comparing KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy with maybe some of their abilities, but not necessarily their top skill sets. By comparing them as the similar receivers, I can see where the position may be similar, but what you're asking out of each receiver may be a little bit different. Although I do think KJ has bursts of speed and can run routes with the best of them. What you're looking from Jerry Jeudy specifically, and as already Zach alluded to in man coverage, what you're looking for Courtland Sutton when he reaches his top speeds and points of contention on a 50-50 ball is a lot different than what you're looking from KJ Hamler, which is run as far and as fast down the field as possible. Make sure DB doesn't catch up to you, and then let the quarterback take care of the rest. So there's a different conversation. Tommy, what I'm inviting you to do is show up to Let's Talk Broncos and join the discussion along with us, because it makes us better analysts, you better fans, and we all learn something at the end of the day. Joey, anything before I ask for something from you?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Don't trade Jerry Jeudy. Don't trade Courtland Sutton. I think it would be dumb. That's my take. Hashtag no.
And hashtag that's why we get paid the big bucks. It's everyone's favorite time of the evening. It's been a while, everybody. It's time for Joey's question of the day.
Okay, guys. Pretty simple.
That wasn't even me. Don't make me the Brie batter little shady grin.
Okay. Which free agent signing is your favorite? Go.
Ooh. Man, that's a good question.
It's Alex Singleton.
It's Alex Singleton. Okay, the re-sign Alex Singleton.
I like the Denver Broncos to keep their own. I like them to reward players who have shown an ability to not only be efficient, but go above and beyond. And I think it was just the right thing to do. I like the other signings. I don't have a problem with them, but that one's my favorite by far.
Okay. Zach Seegers, NFL.
I think that question moves me down to a B grade, because I'm like, man, none of them jump out as like, that's such an amazing deal. They're all like kind of like, it's solid. I think I'm going to go Mike McGlinchey. I did not have high expectations for what they were going to do at right tackle this offseason. And this really outdoes them all. I think they've solidified right tackle for the next 3 years, which has been a nightmare position for this franchise for like a decade plus now. It's been insane. So solidifying it for 3 years is a huge win, especially relative to the trouble many teams around the league are having filling that position. And I think they did it for when you really look at the market value out there and you understand the cap games the Broncos play with rich ownership and how the cap is just expanding at such an insane rapid rate. You can deal with it. Like, let's say Mike McGlinchey's true value is $12 million and the Broncos just overpaid him by $5.5 million. That's not great, but next year the cap is going to go up $30 million. So that $5.5 million just got erased times 6 or times 5. It just doesn't matter anymore. Just all right, we're done. It was an overpay then, but now we've more than recouped our losses there, and we can live to fight another day. So I think it's a really good deal.
There you go.
Bill gives it a solid B. I think they may have overpaid for a couple of players, but Broncos got much better today. Then I don't think it's an overpay, Bill. But I understand. I hear your statement. Thank you for joining the discussion, giving me a grade as I so relatively have asked for it. Joey, what's your favorite?
My favorite player that the Broncos signed is Powers. I think that's the most solid. I think that's the one where I would say he's not my favorite player they signed, but it's a favorite contract plus player they did, because I think that it's not like the riskiest move in the world. I really don't. You're getting a good guard that I think I know can run block at a high level, and if that's what you're trying to go for there, it's not like a massive contract. It's not a huge contract like a McGlinchey is, where there's a little more risk. So I'd say Powers is the safest and my favorite right now.
I absolutely love it. And I don't have a disagreement there. If you have a disagreement, leave it in the comments or argue with somebody else. Guys, where can everybody find your work?
Yes, everybody, follow me at JR Drafts. Make sure you are on the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. And then that's all I really have. Zach, where can they find your work, man?
Yeah, at Zach _Seegers on Twitter. I'm going to be this week's going to be insane for me. I'm going to have Broncos free agency coverage. I was like tweeting about every move today, live as it was going down. And then I'm also going to be covering March Madness for both the men and women. Not only that, men and women CU Buffs basketball programs got March Madness stuff going on, NIT tournament stuff going on. So I'll be covering that. But before they even start in the bracket, what I'll have for you guys on Wednesday, I'm going to be going to CU's Pro Day. So I'll have some coverage from that for you guys. Maybe I hop on LTB this week with you guys or something and talk about the Pro Day. Just spitballing. We'll talk about that offline. And what else do I have to know? And then the 19th, I'm going to have you guys covered with my live tweet series covering the Buffalo spring camp. So just going to be going absolutely crazy. So yeah, go check that out.
Zach, I wasn't trying to ignore you. I was looking up details of the contract. The Seattle Seahawks have signed Draymond Jones after releasing Shelby Harris.
Ouch.
It doesn't feel good.
Dude,
you guys want to give an initial reaction to the news?
No, it sucks. Let's move on.
Man, that hurts. That really stings.
Bree, where can they find your work? We need to get out of here on that. That's
all right. Well, I'll just be crying. Go follow me over on Twitter, BreeMastis303. Join the Discord if you like talking about the Broncos with all of us. And please, if you feel so obliged, set the notifications, subscribe to our YouTube channel, go follow the account on Twitter. I don't know, recommend us to your friends on Facebook. Guys, we appreciate you spending the evening with us as we talked all things free agency. We'll be back to discuss more of it, not going anywhere. But yeah, go follow me on Twitter. I tweet over there sometimes or something. And then you can listen to the Fan Cave today. Zach Seegers joined me, Mile High Sports Radio, 1 to 2 p.m. On Mondays. And I'll be back here with the folks again soon. Enjoy your evening, Broncos country, and we will chat soon.